Imagine Midnight Cowboy without "I'm walking here," A Few Good Men without "You can't handle the truth," or Star Wars without Han Solo's effortless "I know." These legendary moments weren't in the script. Actors went rogue, ignored the director's orders, and made movie history. But what happens when an actor refuses to play by the rules? Chaos or pure cinematic magic? Sometimes the best movie moments happen by accident, and Midnight Cowboy gave us one of the most legendary, unscripted lines in film history. Picture this. Dustin Hoffman, deep as the scrappy and street-smart Ratso Rizzo, is walking through the chaotic streets of New York City. The scene is being filmed guerrilla-style, meaning the actors are moving through real traffic with unsuspecting pedestrians and vehicles around them. Then, out of nowhere, a cab comes speeding toward Hoffman, nearly running him over. Most actors would break character, but not Hoffman. Instead, he slapped the taxi hood and shouted, "I'm walking here!" A raw, unscripted reaction. Director John Schlesinger wanted to reshoot, thinking it looked messy, but Hoffman insisted it was the perfect dose of gritty realism. He was right. The line became one of the most famous in movie history, endlessly quoted and parodied in pop culture. It captured the grittiness of New York, the desperation of Ratso's character, and the spontaneous magic that can happen when an actor trusts their instincts. Think about it. If Hoffman had followed orders and reshot the scene, that moment would exist. It's proof that sometimes breaking the rules makes a film even better. So, next time you hear someone say, "I'm walking here," whether it's in a movie, a sitcom, or just some tourist joking in New York, you'll know the wild, unscripted story behind it. All thanks to an actor who refused to stop the scene even when a real taxi almost plowed him over. Some lines hit so hard that you can feel them in your bones. That's exactly what happened when Jack Nicholson delivered the now legendary "You can't handle the truth" in A Few Good Men. But here's the crazy part. It wasn't in the script. The original line was much tamer. "You already have the truth." Imagine that for a second. Would it have had the same impact? Not a chance. During filming, Nicholson felt something was missing. He believed Colonel Jessup, his character, needed to have the upper hand in that heated courtroom scene. This wasn't just some routine line delivery, it was the climax of the entire movie. When Tom Cruise's character demands the truth, Nicholson takes it to another level, throwing out the scripted line and going for something more explosive. He practically spit the words out, his face twisted in rage, his voice rising as he shouted, "You can't handle the truth!" The moment hit like a freight train. The entire courtroom, both on screen and on set, was stunned. Director Rob Reiner later admitted he hadn't planned on Nicholson changing the line, but once he saw the performance, there was no going back. It was too powerful, too unforgettable, and just like that, a new classic was born. What makes this improvisation even more legendary is how it completely changed the scene's energy. It took a moment of legal back and forth and turned it into an emotional explosion. Nicholson's delivery was so intense that Cruise and the rest of the cast had no choice but to react in real time, making their performances even more genuine. This wasn't just an actor going off script for fun. Nicholson knew exactly what he was doing. He understood the weight of the scene and how one line could turn a great performance into an iconic one. And let's be real, if you've ever been in an argument and wanted to drop a mic-worthy line, "You can't handle the truth" is about as good as it gets. Few characters are as effortlessly cool as Han Solo. He's charming, sarcastic, and always in control, even when he's about to be frozen in carbonite. That's exactly why his most famous line, "I know," was never supposed to happen. Originally, the script had him responding to Layla's heartfelt "I love you" with a simple "I love you too." Romantic? Sure, but does that sound like Han Solo? Not really. Harrison Ford knew that. He felt the line didn't fit the rogue smuggler we'd come to love. Han wasn't the type to get all sappy, even in a life or death situation, so when it came time to shoot the scene, Ford ignored the script. Instead of saying "I love you too," he smirked and coolly replied, "I know." That two-word response changed everything. It wasn't just Han refusing to show vulnerability, it was Han being Han. Confident even in the face of danger. It made the moment deeper, more emotional, and yet completely in character. And the best part? Leia's reaction, played by Carrie Fisher, felt completely real because it was. She had no idea Ford was going to change the line. George Lucas wasn't immediately on board. He worried that the moment wouldn't land the way it was intended. But when they watched the scene back, everyone knew it was perfect. The audience didn't need a mushy typical response, they needed something that felt right. And boy did it ever! That one little improvisation turned into one of the most famous exchanges in cinema history. Even people who've never seen The Empire Strikes Back know the line. It's been referenced, parodied, and repeated countless times. Imagine if Ford had just followed the script. Would the scene still be memorable? Maybe, but it wouldn't have had that extra punch, that effortless Han Solo swagger. This is one of those moments that prove actors sometimes understand their characters better than anyone else. Ford knew Han wasn't the guy to spill his heart out, even when faced with death. Instead, he gave us a response so perfect, it's still quoted over 40 years later. Some performances are so haunting, so perfect, that they almost feel too real. That's exactly what happened with Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker in The Dark Knight. Every second he was on screen, he was electrifying, dangerous, unpredictable, and chillingly captivating. But one of his most memorable moments? Completely improvised. Picture this, the Joker, freshly captured by Gotham's police, sitting in a holding cell, handcuffed and surrounded by officers. Across the room, Commissioner Gordon is being promoted and the entire apartment is applauding. The camera cuts to Ledger, sitting in his cell, staring, smirking, and then, ever so slowly, he begins to clap. Not a normal clap, oh no, it's eerie, sarcastic, almost mocking. His hands move lazily, his expression unreadable, and yet it's dripping with menace. Here's the thing, that moment wasn't in the script. The scene was meant to continue without that unsettling applause, but Ledger, fully in character, made a choice. He knew the Joker was always unpredictable, always playing mind games, even when he was behind bars. So, he started clapping, slow and deliberate, never breaking eye contact, never shifting out of that terrifying presence. And Christopher Nolan, recognizing the brilliance of the moment, let the cameras roll. What makes this improvisation so chilling is how much it adds to the character. The Joker is a man who thrives on chaos and enjoys watching others squirm. This slow clap isn't just applause, it's a twisted game. He's mocking police, mocking Gordon, making it clear that even in custody, he's the one in control. It's small moments like these that separate a good performance from an unforgettable one. Ledger wasn't just reading lines, he was the Joker. His dedication and his willingness to push beyond the script created a version of the character that has never been topped. And that slow clap, it became one of the most iconic villainous gestures in film history. Sometimes the funniest and most beloved moments in movies aren't planned at all, they just happen. That was exactly the case in The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, when John Rhys Davies, playing the boisterous and proud Gimli, delivered an off-the-cuff line that ended up becoming one of the funniest moments in the trilogy. It all happened during a drinking game scene. If you've seen The Return of the King, you'll remember it. Legolas and Gimli go head-to-head in a challenge to see who can drink the most ale without falling over. As they sit there surrounded by cheering warriors, Gimli, already a little drunk, proudly declares, "It's the dwarfs that go swimming with little hairy women." That line? Not in the script. It came straight from Rhys Davies himself. At that moment, he fully embodied Gimli's loud and playful nature, throwing in a random but hilarious statement that fits his character perfectly. Peter Jackson, the film's director, knew gold when he saw it. He kept the line in, and just like that, a classic Lord of the Rings moment was born. What makes this moment great is how natural it feels. The best improvisations blend so seamlessly into a scene that you'd never guess they weren't scripted. Gimli, ever the proud and tipsy dwarf, boasts without care, perfectly fitting his character. It's a hilarious, authentic touch that adds depth and charm. Fans loved the line. It became one of those quotable moments that people still laugh about today. And it's a great reminder that sometimes the best way to bring a character to life isn't by following the script, it's by feeling the character so deeply that the words just come naturally. Superhero movies are packed with action, spectacle, and jaw-dropping moments. But sometimes the most powerful scenes come down to something much simpler. A single line delivered at just the right moment. That's exactly what happened in Avengers: Infinity War, when Tom Holland, playing Spider-Man, improvised a gut-wrenching line that left audiences in tears. It happens during that scene. The moment Thanos snaps his fingers, half the universe begins to fade into dust. As heroes vanish one by one, Peter Parker stumbles towards Tony Stark, terror in his eyes. He grips onto Iron Man's suit, his voice trembling. "I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir, please." And then, just like that, he's gone. That scene was already devastating, but here's what makes it even more incredible. None of it was scripted. The only direction Holland was given was to act like he didn't want to leave. That was it. Everything else, the pleading, the fear, the heartbreaking way he clings to Tony, came from Holland himself. Even Robert Downey Jr. was caught off guard. You can see it in his face. There's real emotion there. Because Holland wasn't just acting, he was Peter Parker in that moment. A kid who suddenly realizes he's about to die, desperate to hold on to the one person he trusts most. It's raw, it's heartbreaking, and it's one of the most memorable moments in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. The impact of that scene was massive. Fans were left devastated, theaters fell silent, and social media exploded with reactions. Even the Infinity War directors, the Russo brothers, later admitted that Holland's improvisation made the scene far more emotional than they had imagined. This is what great acting is all about. Sometimes you don't need a carefully written script or a dozen rehearsals. Sometimes the most powerful moments happen when an actor just feels the scene and reacts naturally. Holland trusted his instincts, and in doing so, he gave us one of the most unforgettable moments in superhero movie history. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.